certainly is coming into this race the right way, but I think he will get a stiff challenge here as far as the pace is concerned.
As they come out on to the track, they have already sailed by the $1 million guarantee in this pick 5. Our post parade is going to begin with a big long shot, Mighty Gurkha, who's 74-1. But one of the big storylines with Mighty Gurkha, Caton, is the up-and-coming rider Holly Doyle.
And media sensation around the globe for sure. It's just been a pleasure to watch her as she's developed. And Mighty Gurkha's interesting. Draws the inside post, adds blinkers. Last race on soft ground. Perhaps we can kind of draw a line through. Didn't seem to handle the going at all. I think it could be a different story today. There is a little bit of bounce in the turf course listed at good. But that said, that is firm going by international standards. So I think Mighty Gurkha will be very comfortable.
Holly Doyle just turning 24 years old October 11th of this year, and now she's on the big stage of the Breeders' Cup with a big long shot in the one Mighty Gurkha, and that'll be the horse that starts off our post parade, Matt.
Yeah, it's 73-1. I mean, there's so many overlays in this race because you have a 3-5 favorite in a giant field. So everyone else's prices go up. Mighty Gurkha, one of them, a Group 3 winner, couple starts back. That was a nice win, but definitely class tested here. That's why the big price. We'll try to show some speed from the inside.
There's Windy City Red, the horse I mentioned. Those long legs just kind of carry him a long way. I think that last race he was running out of ground at the end, so I think he is going to get better and better, even as distances get perhaps longer than today.
I know our colleague Mike Joyce likes the 3 Lipizaner for Aidan O'Brien. Getting kind of some sneaky action right now, too. Bet down to 16-1. Ryan Moore, Aidan O'Brien, a horse that's coming off of a nice win, and the Doncaster Stakes October 24th.
County Final is back there with the West Point Thoroughbred Silks, and Cowan next with You Better Believe It now in the picture after a victory in Group 2 competition at Doncaster. Horse is certainly in good form, having won 3 of his last 4 starts.
All right, we have a tie-in, Todd, with Momos and Golden Pal. I'll try to get to that before the race. This horse is 3/4 to Magnolian Saturday, who beat Lady Shipman, the mother of Golden Powell, in the 2015 turf sprint here at Keeneland. So there's a tie, and I got it in. After 5 is the 9. He's a maiden, a tall order here. 13-1, the 1 of 4 for Wesley Ward, second in the Grade 3 Futurity at Belmont in his last start.
Bodenheimer with some speed as well toward the outside, won the Indian Summer pretty easily, beating Cowan, and he seems to me to not have lost a step from his appearance last time around.
Into the sunrise, you show speed in the Bourbon, the race falls apart, you run fourth, now you turn back, you're neck behind Gretzky the Great, who's going to be one of your favorites in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. He has a big shot here, and he's a big price.
And there's Dirty Dangle. Philly facing the boys is undefeated in 2 starts. I think she's very interesting here. She's versatile. She has natural early speed, but she does not need the lead. Her win last out was very professional.
Once again, 2nd of July, not getting support. Won at 68-1 in the first start of his career. Won at 15-1 in the Grade 3 Futurity. And off an 8-1 morning line is 16-1 right now. And here's your heavy favorite.
Yeah, Golden Pal, deserving favorite. Very flashy performance last out in the Skidmore. And the horse has done very little wrong as far as training is concerned. I don't know that we learned much from that workout at Keeneland, on a little heavier going the other day, but certainly looks in good form. And we saw on the outside the long shot at 79-1, Blame the Booze. Another who could maybe show some speed there.
That was our post parade for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. We're also getting some breaking news coming into the Breeders' Cup Players Show. Breaking news, trainer Todd Pletcher got that 5,000th career win at Aqueduct. Just happened. So Todd Pletcher now officially can win here at the Breeders' Cup. Whenever someone's stuck on a career milestone, they stay there. But Todd Pletcher, congratulations to him. 5,000 career wins. It just happened at Aqueduct. He's obviously still got a big weekend ahead. Let's get more insight into this race with Gabby Gaudet.
Todd, thank you. And it is now time for the DRF formulator stat for the Juvenile Turf Sprint. In fact, trainer Wesley Ward is 16 for his last 31 starters, a 52% and a positive ROI of $3.23 with 2-year-old third-time starters in turf sprints. So this applies to After 5, the number 9 horse. He will try to emulate Ward's 4-wheel drive, who won last year's turf sprint and his 3rd start after prepping in Belmont Futurity. Good luck to Wesley Ward with all of his starters, but in particular there with After 5, the most powerful past performances in horse racing, always available on DRF.com.
After 5, sitting up on the board right now at 13-1. Naomi Tucker, what have you found out about this race?
Well, I've got trainer Nigel Tinkler here with me. First time Breeders' Cup starter with the number 6, You Better Believe It. And Nigel, You Better Believe It has only gone straight. And I know that you had him look around the turf course here, going around the bend. How did he find it?
Absolutely fine. He went on Thursday and he went right round the bend and he was very good, not a problem. It was towards the outside of the course, but he changed his lead onto that leg and absolutely great, not a problem. I don't think the bend will be an issue.
I know you as a very sharp trainer based up north in England. This is your first Breeders' Cup runner. What did he show you? He must be very special that you brought him over here.
Yeah, he always showed us a lot. He won at Doncaster very easily, and then he won the National Stakes at Sandown, which is a listed race, and then he went and won the Group 2 at York, at Doncaster.
Well, thank you so much, Nigel, and the best of luck.
Lovely, nice to be here. Good to see you all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. The field being called towards the turf course to move into line for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. That pick 5 pool is now at $2.2 million. $2.2 million in this pick 5 pool. They're about to step on to the good turf course here. And still throughout the wagering, they have not wavered. It is all about the 14 Golden Pal at 3-5. Caton, obviously you have great respect for Golden Pal, but if he gets beat at here, who's going to do it?
I think Dirty Dangle has a shot. I love 14-1. He does draw to the outside, which could be a little disadvantage, but I think given his style, which is to kind of break sharply and settle, Tyler Gaffley-Hone will have a few options here. The filly, I should say she, was really, I thought, impressive last time out, going from maiden company to stakes company, and she did it even easier at 4-1 odds. It wasn't a very easy field. She seems the type that is a little bit more mature than some of the others as far as running style and what she's done. And of course, on the dam side, she has a little bit of a stamina influence with Alphabet Soup, the sire of Chambray, who is the mare by Dirty Dangle. I also, Matt, I'm really interested in Momos here. If Momos can settle just a little bit and get a decent trip, I think he is really interesting. I am concerned that he gets caught up in a pace battle, and particularly with the blinkers on, but sometimes blinkers on causes a horse to even relax and settle, even though you instinctively think they're going to show a bit more speed.
And he's a 3/4 to Magnolia Saturday, who won the turf sprint here at Keeneland. The only time the Breeders' Cup was conducted here 5 years ago in 2015. He's intriguing. A couple other thoughts here. You know, the 6, You Better Believe It, who Naomi interviewed the conditioner, and that 40-1 win, he beat Sacred in that race. Sacred's a horse that ran second to Campanelli, who I think is going to be favored in the juvenile Phillies turf in the Queen Mary. So that's a serious racehorse who he beat. Cowan, the 5, is a horse we haven't talked about. And you mentioned Todd Pletcher got career win number 5,000. At this time next year, Steve Asmussen might become the all-time leading trainer.
Amazing time that we're living in with the accomplishments of so many great trainers here in the United States and now around the world. The best have gathered here at Keeneland Racecourse, the second time that this historic racetrack has hosted the Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships, and the first of what you're going to see in the way of 14 Breeders' Cup races taking place here right now. 5 today on Future Stars Friday and 9 tomorrow on the Saturday card. We begin this journey going 5.5 furlongs over the good turf course here at Keeneland with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. As the field is starting to move into line, let's check the odds and see where we're at. It is the 14 Golden Pal, who is our 4-5 favorite in here. That has created some great prices on everyone else in the field, including a second choice at 9-1. That would be the 10 Bodenheimer for trainer Valerie Lund, and that is a horse that we did not give a lot of attention to in our discussion. But you were talking about, Matthew, you think no one's the equal of Golden Pal on the lead, but Bodenheimer is a pretty fast horse.
I do think he's second fastest in this race. He's by Attaboy Roy, who, as you know, is a lightning quick sprinter on dirt in Southern California and Northern California. But if there's anybody going to put pressure on Golden Pal, I think the answer is probably nobody can. But there is the 3. Lipizzano, anxious moments for the connections here. It seems to be just fine, though. He's settled down 15-1. One of the greats in the world aboard. And Ryan Moore for Aidan O'Brien, 2-year-old by Uncle Mo. seems to be okay now. He'll go in. These are 2-year-olds. The big field could take a little while, if not too long, to load this group. But the break is key, and Golden Pal for Randall Lowe Investments, owner of Lady Shipman, the dam of Golden Pal. He just missed winning this race 5 years ago. I know he's very confident in his chances. And by the way, Golden Pal, named after the late John C. Mabee, very good friends of Randall Lowe.
Field about set to go. Our first Breeders' Cup race of these 2 championship days at Keeneland. It's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint.
Last one goes in. They're at the post. And they're off. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, Golden Pal comes right out for the lead. Into the sunrise, comes away in second. Bodenheimer had an awkward start, but now recovers, starts to move up through some traffic. Third into second, and Golden Pal there starts to swing out a bit from the inside. That leaves some room for Bodenheimer. Into the sunrise there to the outside, and Blame the Booze in the center of the course. Those are the top 4. Golden Pal has the lead, gets over toward the rail, leads it by a half length into the far turn. And then further back, Dirty Dangle is in 6th. 2nd of July 7th. Momos is 8th. Cowan is 9th. Mighty Gurkha 10th. You Better Believe It is in 11th around the turn. After 5 is next on the outside. Then Lip is Honor in 12th, followed by Windy City Red. County Final last of the 14. Golden Pal, the leader. Bodenheimer 2nd. 4 lengths separate the top 2. Momos in 3rd. You Better Believe It looks for room toward the rail. Cowan runs from the outside, but well behind Golden Pal in the final furlong. A 5-length lead for Golden Pal. Then Cowan. Then You Better Believe It. Golden Pal. Cowan runs on from the outside. Golden Pal. Cowan is 2nd. Golden Pal wins it by a length on the line. Cowan up for 2nd. You Better Believe It was 3rd.
All over the world, Wesley Ward dominates this category, and Golden Pal comes back to the United States to have a crowning moment here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. How about the early decision here, Matt? Rad Ortiz Jr. breaks on top clearly, but then takes a hold.
Yeah, I don't know if that was by design, Todd. I mean, it looked like he was kind of hard to handle and got a little bit rank, a couple hundred yards into this race. I mean, first of all, the thing I take away from this is just the unbelievable gate speed this horse possesses and the athleticism to overcome whatever occurred kind of in the early stages of this race, where he was a handful for Rad Ortiz. He went from having a 3-length lead. He kind of dropped back to the field, and then like in an instance, he settled right back into stride and was 3 in front, and now he's 5 in front. And because of what he had to endure in the early stage of this race, he's tired here at the end, but it doesn't matter. He's clear by 5, and the race is over. It's an unbelievably gifted, talented racehorse who's a neck away from being undefeated, and that defeat came to the Lear Jet, who we're going to see in the Juvenile Turf later on.
5.5 furlongs, 102 and 4. Caton, what did you see here from Golden Pal and what maybe our Rad Ortiz Jr. was dealing with early?
I'm hard-pressed to decide which was more impressive, the way Golden Pal was able to almost give up that lead advantage and then come back again to win so impressively, or the effort by runner-up Cowan, who literally walked out of the starting gate, spotted the field, including Golden Pal on the front end, an abundance of ground, and then really closed the gap at the end a little bit farther, and it might have been perhaps a different outcome, but amazing performance for Golden Pal, who kind of seals the deal as far as his credentials are concerned.
Golden Pal taking our first Breeders' Cup race of this Breeders' Cup Championship weekend at Keeneland on Future Stars Friday. Golden Pal is the brightest star here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint at 4-5. 14-5-6. Cowan in 2nd. You Better Believe It. And 3rd. And congratulations, our 3 chimneys. Cheers to the breeder goes to Randall E. Lowe, who bred Golden Pal in the Sunshine State of Florida by Uncle Mo out at Coolmore, America's Ashford Stud, out of the brilliant race mare Lady Shipman, a daughter of Midshipman. This is what Golden Pal was bred to do, and she does it, or he does it better than anyone else in the world today, taking the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Awaiting the prices here for race number 6, and then we'll stay on the turf course. Coming up next in race number 7, it'll be the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf presented by Coolmore America, a mile over the good turf here at Keeneland. You're watching and listening to the Breeders' Cup Players Show.
Now entering the winner's circle, the winner of race 6, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, 14, Golden Pal, owned by Randlow Investments, LLC of Randy Lowe, trained by Wesley Ward. Rod Ortiz Jr. scores back-to-back wins on the card. Golden Pal, a 2-year-old son of Uncle Mo out of Lady Shipman by Midshipman, bred in Florida by Randall Lowe. 5.5 furlongs over the turf listed good, 1 minute 2.82 seconds.
I would really like to train this horse. I was a big fan of.
Brittany Erden for the trophy presentation.
The first Breeders' Cup race of 2020 is in the books, and what a performance by Golden Pal to take the Juvenile Turf Sprint. So pleased to be joined by all of the connections here. Randy Lowe, winning owner and breeder, and winning trainer and rider Wesley Ward, and Irad Ortiz Jr. For the trophy presentation, the first female president-elect of Keeneland, Shannon Arvin.
Thank you, Brittany. On behalf of Keeneland Association and Breeders' Cup, congratulations on a terrific win. Many congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Randy, this is a special horse for you. I can imagine the son of Lady Shipman, who finished second here 5 years ago in the turf sprint. You said after that, we're coming back to win. What is it about Golden Pal that gave you so much confidence?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Wesley Ward's team. Wesley Ward has believed in this horse from day one. And to see him come over here and do what he did, I couldn't be any prouder.
What were you thinking as they were coming down the stretch? Wesley said he was getting a little nervous. How were you feeling?
I was a little nervous at first, but I saw the wire coming. So we got there.
Having bred this horse, there's such an investment there emotionally as well as monetarily. How special is this victory, having owned and raced the mother and now her son?
Well, I've been telling a lot of people back home that I was going to do this. It's been a long haul, but guess what? We did it.
And is it? And lastly, we know how much Wesley Ward loves Royal Alaska. Golden Pal already went there. Is it back to England?
I believe we'll leave that up to Wesley to make a decision. For now, I just like to enjoy this moment.
As you should. Big congratulations to the entire team here. Lafitte, what a win by Golden Pal to kick off our Breeders' Cup Friday.
In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, Golden Pal comes right out for the lead. Into the sunrise, comes away in second. Bodenheimer had an awkward start, but now recovers, starts to move up through some traffic. Third into second, and Golden Pal there starts to swing out a bit from the inside. That leaves some room for Bodenheimer. Into the sunrise there to the outside, and Blame the Booze in the center of the course. Those are the top four. Golden Pal has the lead, gets over toward the rail, leads it by a half length into the far turn. And then further back, Dirty Dangle is in sixth. 2nd of July 7th. Momos is 8th. Cowan is 9th. Mighty Gurkha 10th. You Better Believe It is in 11th around the turn. After 5 is next on the outside. Then Lip is Honor in 12th, followed by Windy City Red. County Final last of the 14. Golden Pal the leader. Bodenheimer second. 4 lengths separate the top two. Momos in third. You Better Believe It looks for room toward the rail. Cowan runs from the outside, but well behind Golden Pal in the final furlong. A 5-length lead for Golden Pal. Then Cowan. Then You Better Believe It. Golden Pal. Cowan runs on from the outside. Golden Pal. Cowan is second. Golden Pal wins it by a length on the line. Cowan up for second. You Better Believe It was third.
Hey, neighbor, we got to talk.
Well, Jay? No, he only comes to Bugle on race days.
Race days?
With the TVG app, every day is race day. You can place bets right in your phone, even stream live races.
Upcoming race at the Breeders' Cup.
I can have a day at the track whenever I want, right at home.
Coming through, guys.
Go get him, Mike.
Mike Smith?
Yeah, Mike Smith.
There's a new home of horse racing. Yours. Get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to $250.
It's not how we fly, but how we fall that separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is what's remembered, what remains, when all else has been stripped away.
Introducing the Equibase app with all new features, including Smart Pick, smart handicapping made easy. Choose your track, choose your race, and then go to Smart Pick. Select your level of risk, the size of your wager, and which of these 3 strategies you want to emphasize. Smart Pick will then tailor your very own selection and bet amount. It couldn't be easier. Smart Pick, one of the exciting new features in the Equibase app. Download it free of charge today.
When a new wave calls, you answer. When adventure calls, you answer. When the surf calls, you paddle out. When sunsets call, you find the best view. When the sand in your toes calls, you put more sand between them. When the ocean calls, you wave hello. Because when happiness calls, you answer. San Diego Happiness is calling you back. Please travel responsibly.
It's not how we fly, but how we fall that separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is what's remembered, what remains, when all else has been stripped away.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf featured a U.S.-based winner last fall, and that's not as surprising as it once was. When Structor won for trainer Chad Brown, it gave the Americans a split with their European rivals over the past 6 editions. But always beware of trainer Aidan O'Brien's runners in this race, like Hit It a Bomb at Keeneland in 2015, and multiple graded stakes winner Mendelssohn 2 years after that. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf.
Welcome back to the Players Show. Christina Blacker here on the Players set as we get ready for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. And yes, we've run this race 13 times. 9 times it has gone to the Europeans. So this is certainly their first major opportunity to get on the scoreboard in here. As we also mentioned in the preview there, beware of Aidan O'Brien. He has won this race 4 times along with Ryan Moore. They will be represented once more today. Joining me for coverage of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf is Kaiten Bradar. And for the first time today, we welcome to the Players Show Simon Bray. Simon, I know you've been looking forward to this weekend just as we all have, and this is a welcome time to bring you into the program. Give me your initial impressions of this field.
I think it's a loaded race. I think it's a deep, contentious race. Obviously, the Europeans merit major respect in here, and that's an angle that I'm going to go to with the European runner for trainer Rafe Beckett. I think the 2 New Mandate is a horse that should be seriously considered on the form that we've seen in Europe. And Christina, on our breakfast at the Breeders' Cup show leading up to this big afternoon, we've seen New Mandate working with Frankie Dettori, and I thought put in one of the most impressive workouts for the limited viewing we got of some of the European runners. I thought New Mandate made a very, very impressive performance in the morning hours over this turf course and has been bet accordingly from 12-1 morning line down to 6-1.
Simon, I'm glad that you mentioned that workout. And Kaiten, I want to follow up with you with regard to the work that we saw from New Mandate, because there's a little bit of buzz in the European camp that he may have actually done a little too much on the track here yesterday morning. To my eye, and I went back and looked at it again, I thought it looked just fine. We'll get Kaiten's opinion of the work in just a moment. We do now want to head down to the paddock with Scott Hazelton.
And I'm with the breeder of Gretzky the Great, David Anderson, who has had a year unlike maybe anybody in this great sport. How would you sum up 2020 for yourself, David?
Well, I'm very grateful. It's been, one of those years where you just want to pinch yourself, from the sales to racing. And, in a year like this with the COVID going on, it's just been a lot of fun and rewarding.
You're a native of Canada. How well received has this horse been, given his Grade 1 victory and obviously the name and the tie into the great sport of hockey?
Well, that's naming him Gretzky the Great. I mean, that was thanks to Gary Barber, and he came up with a great name from the last horse he bought from me, Wonder Good Odds. So we're hoping we can have a little luck with this guy.
You just saw him. How does he look to you down in the paddock?
He looks phenomenal. The horse has really grown since the last time I saw him. I'd say at least almost a couple of inches since earlier in the summer. So it's a tough ask from the 11 hole today, but hopefully we get a good trip and hopefully we get a win.
Hopefully this Dream 2020 continues for you here in the Breeders' Cup.
Thanks, Scotty. Thank you.
Good luck to the connections of Gretzky the Great, also in partnership with Gary Barber and Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners. And cheers to the breeder of all of the competitors today on behalf of our friends at Three Chimneys. Here's a look at that list. If you have bred one of these horses, you are at the top echelon of this game. So good luck to all of the competitors today. This Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf is brought to us and presented by our friends at Coolmore America. And as we sit here at Keeneland, you can't help but think back to 2015 and the great American Pharaoh in victory here. Take a look.
And they're into the stretch, and American Pharaoh has a 4-length lead at Finexia's second, and then extracted, totalist, and honor code. American Pharaoh comes into his final furlong, and he's got a 6-length lead as they come to the wire. A Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime.
The Grand Slam, as they called it, American Pharaoh there in the Breeders' Cup Classic after his Triple Crown victory. You can find him nearby here at Coolmore America, standing alongside Justify, another Triple Crown winner as well. And American Pharaoh was represented by his first Grade 1 winner on turf just a few weeks ago here at Keeneland over this very turf course. Here's a look at the stallions that you can find for 2021 at Coolmore America, led by American Pharaoh, and then many others on this list that you'll see who will be represented by runners both today and tomorrow throughout championship weekend. So a huge thanks to our friends at Coolmore America for their continued support and sponsorship and the partnership here with the Breeders' Cup. Okay, we're back live in the paddock here. Here's a look at your wagering menu down at the bottom of the screen. Win, Place, Show, Exacta Try, Super, Pick 3, Daily Double, Pick 4, and Jackpot Super High 5 wagering as well. The special Daily Double is race 7 here, the Juvenile Turf, into race 11 on the Saturday program. So more on that if you'd like to make a special Daily Double wager. 9-2 on the choice, and that's the 6 on your screen. Mutasa Beck. We'll talk more about him in a moment, but I do want to circle back to the 2. I'm going to show you this stats race lens angle real quickly here, courtesy of our friends at Equibase. New Mandate enters off a career best Equibase speed figure of 112, and Stats Race Lens actually adjusts his odds to 6-1 chance for victory. That's what you're getting pari-mutually right now. He was 12-1 listed on the morning line. That price figured to come down. Kate, and let's circle back to that original topic of conversation, the work from New Mandate. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought Frankie Dettori let him run the turns, get a feel for it. He could not have looked better to me. And for my handicapping this weekend, this is one of the horses I feel strongest about over the 2 days of championship racing.
Well, I would agree with you completely, Christina. I think that's a sign that New Mandate is doing well and has adjusted beautifully to the course here and the surroundings and has shipped in. The fact that Frankie Dettori, I believe, was aboard for that little blowout that we saw on the breakfast show adds to the confidence, because I think he would have a good feel for the horse as well as how fast he was going and whether or not it was too taxing. But it was just a nice open up through the lane. It seemed to me when he pulled up, he had plenty left in reserve, and he didn't look as if he was breathing heavily. He looked quite comfortable and pleased with himself, in fact, when he came off the course. And for that reason, I really think you have to include him in the pick 4 that starts with this race. You also have to include him as well in terms of that special Daily Double. But Simon, I know you've put together a pick 4. I'm curious to see if you have found a single. For me, maybe Aunt Pearl coming up a little later, but otherwise it's a very hard one to narrow down in this sequence.
You're exactly right, Caden, it is. I did come up with a single. I looked towards the TVG Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and while I singled Essential Quality in that race on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as confidence, I'd be hovering around about a 6 or a 7 rather than 9 or a 10. I found this sequence very, very tough. Of course, young, improving horses. hard to know which one is, the trajectory is going in the right direction this time of year. So we've got coverage in a lot of the races. I'll go through it real quick. 1, 2, 6, 9 in here. The 1 Sealy New Mandate will be my best top bet in here as far as a win bet at 6 to 1. I like that effort on the Keeneland Turf Course the other morning. Also using the 6 and 9 as well. Excuse me, the 9 Battleground as well by Warfront out of Found. You won't find a better pedigree all weekend. Moving on to race number 8, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies. Use all the major contenders in there. 1, 3, 5, 7. Simply Ravishing, Day Out of the Office. The 5 Girl Daddy is kind of my outside play, and then Princess Noor coming in from the West Coast. Race number 9, 1, 4, 5, 6, 9. I think, Aunt Pearl, obviously the horse to beat, but I'm using quite a few in there. Nizuna for trainer Roger Varian is going to be my top pick in there. He ran second in this race last year behind Sharing with Daya. I think Nizuna merits respect in there, and then Essential Quality will be my single in the TVG Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Christina.
That ticket available if you'd like to play it. Just $40 investment for Simon with this all Breeders' Cup pick 4 coming your way. So we're looking at the 5 horse right there. That's Cadillac. Shoe repair just happened prior to picking up this camera shot. So as you can see, that has been taken care of very quickly. Riders up aboard Cadillac and the rest as they'll make their way into the second paddock and forward here for a post parade momentarily. Interestingly enough about Cadillac, his best 2 races at Leopardstown around a left-handed turn. So, Simon, you'd have to think just picking through his form, he's going to appreciate the racing here at Keeneland and in North America.
No question about that. Some of these European horses don't get the experience of making a left-hand turn very often, and Cadillac does have that advantage. I mean, he's won very impressively in the couple of times he's gone left-handed. So, yeah, and he gets a good post position here. I think the gate break is going to be a key for a lot of these European runners. You've got 2 down to the inside. We expect them probably not to get away as quick as some of the U.S. counterparts here. So, trip going to be key for both Sealaway and New Mandate.
Kate, and I want to ask you about the favorite, about Mutasa Beck. Todd Pletcher just picking up his 5,000th career win in Aqueduct not long ago, so he's looking to add to the tally. The pace kind of collapsed a little bit in the Bourbon. He was able to roll on and get the victory, but he is certainly being supported off that win in here today.
I think the quality is there for sure, and we know he seemed to love Keeneland's turf course. That was at 1 1/16, and now not only against tougher horses, but a change in distance slightly to the mile. Now, what was interesting about the Bourbon here on October 4th is the fact that Mutasabek was expected to show a little bit of speed coming out of his dirt sprint races where he had set closer to the pace, but instead he broke fine with the field. But then if you watch the replay closely, you'll see he just kind of takes himself back. There was no reason. He didn't encounter any trouble. It maybe was due to some greenness on his part, or maybe the fact that he was on the turf for the first time. But whatever the case, it did take him a little while to get his feet underneath them and to get into contact with the field.
All right, Kate, and let's take him through this post parade, back and forth, you and I. Seal Away begins us, drawn at the rail, which is actually quite productive in terms of post positions on the turf course here at Keeneland. We'll see how this colt fares. Over the ground today was a winner over Heavy Going at Longchamp last out.
A New Mandate comes off a 3-race win streak. The most recent of these was the Group 2 Juddmonte Royal Lodge Stakes on good ground, and I think he will really appreciate the ground today.
Abarta for Donegal Racing and their partners rallied from off the pace in the Bourbon as well, was second to Mutasa Beck that day.
Clarovich Stables Public Sector was a winner of his maiden race at Saratoga at 1 1/16, second with kind of a difficult trip inside in the Pilgrim.
Here is Cadillac from Mrs. Jessica Harrington. She's represented by 3 runners over Breeders' Cup weekend. Shoe repair all set, 8 to 1 on Cadillac right now.
Shadwell Stables Mutasa Beck closed with a plum to finish 2.5 lengths in front of the field at the 1 1/16. Shortens up today. Looks to run his record to 3 for 4 lifetime in this one for Todd Pletcher.
Fire at will at a big 25 to 1. Was able to set his own tempo and pretty comfortably so up front in the Pilgrim last out, but he did re-break turning for home. You wanted to see a finish like that off a slow early pace.
Now here's my pick in the race, Outador, undefeated in 2 starts. Wesley Ward looking for his 5th Breeders' Cup win. His work here was very good, I thought, on terms of handling very soft ground. I don't know if he will be equally effective on good ground, but I'm hoping so.
The regally bred Battleground follows through next. Ebico up next, 36 to 1 for Peter Miller. Slow internal fractions in the Zuma Beach ended up your winner by a nose across the wire.
And Gretzky the Great coming off 3 consecutive wins. The most recent of these really impressive impressive in the Grade 1 summer at a mile at Woodbine. If he duplicates that, he will be very, very tough. In the 12 Go Atletico, I love the look of this horse both in the paddock and out on the racetrack. Second last out at Chantilly. He has a very nice record of late.
Couldn't agree more, and he is so fast. A little smaller, more athletic, very nimble, should carry and handle the ground here just fine. The 13 Devil Walla at 72-1. The other for Rafe Beckett was fourth last out in the Dewhurst. Aidan O'Brien finishing first, second, and third on that occasion.
And the Learjet on the outside was fifth in his most recent. It was a Group 1 competition, Juddmonte Middle Park Stakes, on good ground. His wins came very early in his career, first couple of starts, including the Group 2 Norfolk. But I'm thinking he's a horse that does prefer even more given the ground, though he's been versatile. And you can't fault a horse who's been first or second in all but one of his 5 starts lifetime.
Lucky 7, 7 minutes until race 7, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf presented by Coolmore America. Let's go to the paddock with Acacia.
Thanks, Christina. And it's time now for the DRF Formulator stat, as here in this race, legendary trainer Aidan O'Brien is only 2 for 59. That's 3% with just a 90-cent ROI. Over the past 3 years with turf performers in North America, he has a strong contender in Battleground here at the number 9, a beautifully bred Son of Warfront out of Breeders' Cup winner Found. And we'll see if this race, this horse coming into this race off of 2 nice victories in England, can turn that stat around. He looks a picture there in the paddock for Aidan O'Brien. The most powerful past performances in horse racing are always available on DRF.com.
Acacia, thank you. 5-1 on Battleground. The Son of Found, who won right here at Keeneland back in 2015. For more, we head to Naomi Tucker.
Thanks, Christina. I'm going to talk about New Mandate, and I kind of have to second your opinion about that. He did a little bit of work yesterday, but that was to possibly take a little bit of steam off him. He can get a tad keen. So just to settle him down a bit, they let him roll, and I don't think he did too much at all. And of course, that Juddmonte Royal Lodge Stakes win was very, very strong. And Frankie, the Tory Rise now, he recommended Mark Chan to buy this horse north of $500,000. So he certainly has a vested interest in him, and I think New Mandate hopefully can use that very sharp turn of foot that we saw in the Royal Lodge Stakes to really get round here and close late at Keeneland. And then the number 5 Cadillac, we did indeed just see him get a shoe repair. I spoke to Jessica Harrington just after, and she said he just kicked the wall. We said it, and it looks great, and I've been so happy with his development here. He has not missed a beat whatsoever. Has indeed run left-handed and won twice there. And in that last race, the Dolly Dewar Stakes, Jessica reflected on that, saying, looking back, that she thinks she shouldn't have run him. It was just a bit too deep of ground for him, but it's so tough. You travel over, you're there. It's a Group 1. You want to give him a chance, but in hindsight, it didn't suit him too much, and I therefore feel like what he's going to get here today, the good ground at Keeneland, is going to suit him perfectly. Christina?
Cadillac sitting up there at 8-1. He looks great today, too. I've noticed in the mornings he could get a touch warm. Doesn't seem to be turning a hair at this point right now. Simon, we're noticing a lot of the Europeans warm up on their own. For our American viewers, can you explain a little bit about the differences in this post-parade warm-up time, America versus Europe?
Yeah, very different situation here stateside as compared to in Europe. Horses in Europe do, 1, don't go to the gate with a pony, and 2, when they're in the starting gate, they're not accustomed to having a stalls handler in the starting gate with them. We've seen earlier this week a lot of the horses going to the gate and getting accustomed to that starting gate situation. If they don't even have a assistant starter in the gate with them this afternoon, there will be one to their offside, their right side, so they need to be cognizant of that. And historically, you know, sometimes these horses do break a step slow. In England, they raise the flag before the gates open. Here, a bell is rung, and that can sometimes startle the horses as well. But there's a horse from the States warming up without a pony, Chad Brown. So that horse looks tremendous here. Public Sector for Chad, second in the Pilgrim last time out. I think, you know, I mentioned in the post-break, Christina, you won't find a better pedigree than Battleground. We just heard from Acacia and the DRF formulator stats there with Battleground. But, you know, this is a horse who I thought would get a little more play, to be honest with you. But as I look at the odds here, is the co-favorite, or slight second choice here at 5-1. It just underscores the wide-open nature of this race, but certainly has got the credentials and comes in as a fresh racehorse. Usually with Aidan's, you see a lot of horses coming into these big races, you know, with a key race maybe within the last 30 days. That's not the case here with Battleground. Hopefully he's fresh off the layoff.
Well, and also, Simon, with the pandemic, just changing the schedule pretty much everywhere, but especially in Europe with the pause in racing, the purses changing pretty significantly over some of the big weekends. I think part of the reason you're seeing such a large contingent of Europeans do everything they could to travel to support the racing here, not only because it's the Breeders' Cup and it holds a huge level of prestige, but because the prize money is the same. This is one of the biggest opportunities that they have had to run for as far as purse money.
That's exactly right. Good point you made. Purse money was down considerably in Europe throughout this pandemic. So the fact that the Breeders' Cup maintain these high-level purse structure is a testament to them. And now as we continue to talk the money, a big hit, Christina. Look at the shift in money here for the 9 Battleground. 5-1 second choice moments ago. Just taking a ton of money now is your 3-1 choice. Getting money late, Battleground.
I think they heard you, Simon. Kaiten, as they continue to warm up, any other horses sort of striking your fancy? Who have we forgotten to mention?
Well, I want to circle back to that, but first, to Simon's point, the 6 and the 9 were really very close in terms of the pick 4 will pays. So I expect that they will be very close at post time, or by the time they break out of the starting gate, to as far as their final odds are concerned. But the 8 Outador, I touched on briefly, and I want to go back to his last race came on soft ground at Kentucky Downs. We know he loves really soft footing. But the distance that day was 6.5 furlongs. You think sprint, but it plays a lot more akin to a 7 furlong, even a mile. So I think for Outador, distance is not as big a question as it might otherwise be. He's undefeated in 2 starts. In terms of his workout on October 31st, which was on ground listed good, but I thought had even more given it than that, he just seemed to float over the ground. I believe he worked with Campanelli, and he was able to kind of maintain his position throughout. He finished really nicely and struck me as the type of horse who is going to even go on from there. So I am eager to see him at the mile. Though he has been a little under the radar amongst the Wesley Ward contingent, I think he deserves to be considered in here. And he's 8-1 right now with, I think, a very big shot. I'd also mention that the 1 Seal Away at 11-1 was very competitive with Go Athletica. And Go Athletica right now sits on the board at 21-1. If you like one of those horses, I think you have to consider the other.
Outador, the top pick for Kaiten Bradar. Simon, quickly, who's your top selection?
I'm going to stick with the new mandate, Christina. I liked him coming in, and then my confidence was bolstered earlier this week with that move over the turf course. Finished up very nicely. Last quarter of a mile, last 2 furlongs, 23 and change on the grass with Frankie. Hope he finishes strong today.
I'm with you. 6-1 on new mandate. Into the gate they go for the second of our Breeders' Cup races. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf presented by Coolmore America. Let's go to Kurt Becker.
Last one moves into line at the post. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. There goes Outador. Outador right out for the lead. Fire at Will is there toward the inside. Then Cadillac and New Mandate, who's down toward the inside, but Outador will have the early lead. Gretzky the Great going to move up on the outside to challenge Fire at Will for that second position. New Mandate is fourth in behind that pair. Abico is fifth toward the outside. Public Sector sixth back toward the rail. Mutazabek three wide in seventh outside of Cadillac in eighth. Barda is ninth. Battleground is wide off the turn in 10th. Seal Away is 11th. Devil Wallet 12th. Go Athletico 13th. The Learjet is 14th and last, 23.64 seconds the time for the opening quarter. Outador, the leader, midpoint of the backstretch, and Outador leads at 3/4 of a length. Gretzky the Great second by just a length as they head for the far turn. Fire at Will is third. Abico is in fourth. New Mandate between horses fifth. Public Sector looks for room to the inside sixth. Mutazabek going to be four wide onto the far turn from seventh. Cadillac is in eighth. Battleground trying to work through some traffic in ninth. Go Athletico is 10th. They're midway on the final turn. And back up front, Outador continues to lead Gretzky the Great. Outador leads at a length and a half. Gretzky the Great second. Abico third to the outside. Fire at Will is in fourth. Cadillac is fifth. Mutazabek and Seal Away still far back, nearly 10 from the front. Outador two-length lead. Fire at Will moves up on the outside. Gretzky the Great is in third. Cadillac fourth. Battleground is fifth on the outside. Fire at Will puts ahead in front from Outador in second. Battleground, then Cadillac to the inside. Fire at Will to the front and drawing clear for Ricardo Santana Jr. in the Juvenile Turf.
Fire at Will with the victory in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Congratulations to the connections here. Mike Maker, Ricardo Santana Jr. Caton, he's had a tactical trip just off the early pace, and we have a 30-1 winner.
He's very professional. He really broke sharply and then rated just as Ricardo Santana Jr. asked him, doling out his position, his speed there, and just shakes the reins at him to take aim on Outador, who had gamely sat the trip just kind of ideally on the front end with things his own way. Gets a little tired here as you see Fire at Will just striding out beautifully to cross the finish line in front for Kirk Wyckoff and the Three Diamonds Farm.
Close in behind, it looks like Battleground did rally on for second today, 7-2, I believe, at post time on the 9 in here. Simon, in terms of a lot of the European horses, a few of them having trouble settling early on off that pace. Battleground, the only one to be heard from late.
Yeah, he rallied late. The horse that you and I like, New Mandate, was very aggressive early in between horses. Didn't get much cover, was kind of three wide, saw daylight and offered nothing through the stretch run, was eased up out of it. But the only horse really finishing Fire at Will, Mike Maker, kind of bringing this horse in under the radar. Nobody really talked about him all week long, goes off at a big price. And Mike Maker, the Turf plus Keeneland, that's a triumvirate that we're used to talking about every spring and every fall at the meet. He seems to dominate these types of races. And Fire at Will dominated the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf here this afternoon.
And Mike Maker with so much momentum just off the fall meet, and you're seeing that continue on with his horses here. Big celebration across the wire as well from Ricardo Santana Jr. pointing to the crowd, pleased with his performance. And of course, Fire at Will, the Keeneland graduate, the son of Declaration of War out of the Kitten's Joy mare Flirt. Congratulations to Three Diamonds Farm, his breeders as well, Troy Rankin, right here in Kentucky. And we will have some very big prices after this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Still waiting for them to sort out the results of that photo in terms of second, third, and fourth today. And there's a look at those results. So Battleground indeed was second at post time, 7-2. Outador finishing third at 9-1. Cadillac would follow after settling after a bit of a fight in the early stages. Finally found himself a good spot. He finishes fourth, and the Super High Five completed by Seal Away at 9-1. So Euros in 3 of the top 5 spots. Fire at Will, your victor for Mike Maker. We'll have those prices coming up just as soon as it does go official. Caton taking a look at our winner here. He left it out there on the racetrack, but he certainly doesn't look any worse for the wear off that big performance.
No, and I think versatility is going to be a strength for him going forward, as the son of Declaration of War was able to have everything his own way on the front end when he won the Pilgrim Stakes in his start prior to the Breeders' Cup. But the fact that he was able to establish that position down on the inside, and Ricardo Santana was able to get him to settle into that comfortable rhythm off the pace setter, bodes well going forward. That's 3 straight beautiful races from Fire at Will, showing a lot of versatility in terms of distance as well as style. And I would also say that he sure looked like he could have continued on a bit farther than just the mile today.
Simon, in terms of that last race and the price that we get on Fire at Will today at 30-1, he's coming off a victory in a Grade 2, but with the slow early tempo, was he just not respected enough pari-mutually off that win?
I think that's the case. Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, they went so slow over a firm turf course, 25 and 50, and I think handicappers thought, maybe myself included, that he was presented with an easy lead that day and got everything his own way. And we thought maybe coming into this race that wouldn't happen, but it's just pure talent. I mean, he's very, very talented, and this was an explosive win here today. Late rally from Battleground. I thought he finished up nicely there for Aidan O'Brien, but this is a very impressive son of Declaration of War.
Is indeed. There's a look as he jogs back to have his picture taken. Battleground lightly raced so far this year. You know, sky's the limit. He was running off a layoff. He had not been in competition since July at Goodwood. So to return off that kind of a break at the top level, finishing second, making up all that ground late, certainly didn't lose anything in defeat today. Outdoor holding on along the inside to finish third, followed by Cadillac and Seal Away. As soon as this turns official, we will bring you those prices in a few moments here, but one more look at your winner, Fire at Will, as he comes back to have his photo taken here today. Kate, let's talk a little bit more about these connections in here. Mike Maker, Ricardo Santana Jr. teaming up in here. This is a big marquee win for both of them.
What's fun about Mike Maker, and we've known his prowess with established turf horses, but a little bit of a departure here to see a 2-year-old able to be successful right off the bat. Certainly Mike has made his mark with horses on the grass, and that continuing here, but stables over at trackside back in Louisville, Fire at Will able to fire big time here in the Breeders' Cup.
Better part of that, $1 million to the connections of Fire at Will, your winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, presented by Coolmore America.
In the winner's circle for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, 7 Fire at Will, owned by 3 Diamonds Farm of Kirk Wyckoff, trained by Mike Maker. Second winner today for Ricardo Santana Jr. Fire at Will, a 2-year-old son of Declaration of War, out of Flirt by Kitten's Joy. The winner bred in Kentucky by Troy Rankin. Keeneland Sales graduate gets the mile over the turf listed good, 1 minute 35.81 seconds.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much, Lafitte. And for this trophy presentation, I'm delighted to welcome on behalf of Coolmore America, Charlie O'Connor and Adrian Wallace to present the trophy to the connections of Fire at Will. It's their first Breeders' Cup success for their breeding operation, 3 Diamond Farm, Kirk and Deborah Wycroft. Charlie, I'll let you do the honours.
Hello, everybody, and on behalf of Coolmore America, I'd like to congratulate the Wygotts. They've been great supporters of all of ours, and it couldn't be better that you guys, that we're going to present this trophy to them today. So congratulations on behalf of Coolmore America.
Charlie, thank you very much. Kirk, perhaps we could grab a word. Fire at Will today. He took this juvenile turf by the scruff of the neck. You've had your most successful year. You've had your most successful year in ownership so far. Just tell us what a first Breeders' Cup win means to you.
Well, we've been wanting it for 8 or 10 years, so it's surreal. We're just ecstatic to be here and participate in this great sport. Bring the family together. Great trainers. Mike Maker and his team. The team at Woodford that broke this horse. The team at Grassroots that picked him out. We're very, very lucky to be in this sport, and we're happy to have all you here, and we want the rest of the fans back.
You talk about family. You've got your wife, Deborah, here, your son, Jordan, who's also your racing manager. Why does that make this so much more special?
As time goes by, that's more important. It's not who you are or who you know. It's the people that love you.
Beautiful words, Kirk. Many congratulations. Fire at Will, utterly dominant in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, presented by Coolmore America. Lafitte.
Thank you, Charlie.
Post. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. There goes Outador. Outador right out for the lead. Fire at Will is there toward the inside. Then Cadillac and New Mandate, who's down toward the inside, but Outador will have the early lead. Gretzky the Great going to move up on the outside to challenge Fire at Will for that second position. New Mandate is fourth in behind that pair. Abico is fifth toward the outside. Public Sector sixth back toward the rail. Mutazabek 3 wide in seventh outside of Cadillac in eighth. Barda is ninth. Battleground is wide off the turn. In 10th, Seal Away is 11th. Devil Wallet 12th. Go Atletico 13th. The Learjet is 14th and last, 23.64 seconds the time for the opening quarter. Outador, the leader, midpoint of the backstretch, and Outador leads at 3/4 of a length. Gretzky the Great second by just a length as they head for the far turn. Fire at Will is third. Abico is in fourth. New Mandate between horses fifth. Public Sector looks for room to the inside sixth. Mutazabek going to be 4 wide onto the far turn from seventh. Cadillac is in eighth. Battleground trying to work through some traffic in ninth. Go Atletico is 10th. They're midway on the final turn. And back up front, Outador continues to lead Gretzky the Great. Outador leads at a length and a half. Gretzky the Great second. Abico third to the outside. Fire at Will is in fourth. Cadillac is fifth. Mutazabek and Seal Away still far back, nearly 10 from the front. Outador 2-length lead. Fire at Will moves up on the outside. Gretzky the Great is in third. Cadillac fourth. Battleground is fifth on the outside. Fire at Will puts ahead in front from Outador in second. Battleground, then Cadillac to the inside. Fire at Will to the front and drawing clear for Ricardo Santana Jr. in the Juvenile Turf.
The son of Uncle Mo to win the Remsen.
Motown flying, Motown will win a Thriller, Motown to win it, and Motown has won the Hollywood Derby.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, the best-selling big fan in the world. Big-ass fans. Exceptionally engineered.
Proud, 850,000. Thank you.
Volatile, just like that. In front by 3, now by 4. And the time, 107.57.
As they pass the 16th hole, Volatile victorious in the Vanderbilt. 1 by 2 lengths.
Proud, 850,000. Thank you.
One moment, you're up in the sky. And the next, you're in a free fall, 10,000 feet above the ocean. You have 30 seconds between you and the water's surface. And it's these 30 seconds that define who you are. Because how we face the fall is what separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is your legacy.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies has produced more formful results in recent years. Last fall, British Idiom prevailed in a stretch duel for her third win in as many starts for trainer Brad Cox.
But British Idiom won it, taking the Juvenile Phillies.
In 2018, Jaywalk was only a mild surprise in scoring her decisive victory. And here at Keeneland 5 years ago, champion Songbird was a dominant winner. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies.
And it has all the potential of one of the greatest Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies in recent memory. The best in the West is here. Princess Noor, 3 for 3, the $1.3 million purchase, who's been untested in her 3 starts against the best in the East. That would be day out of the office, dominating winner, the Frizette, also 3 for 3. Before we get into all the details of this race, let's get some valuable wagering information with Kaiten Bradar.
Yeah, some important information and a clarification, Todd. We've received word that this references the pick 5 that ended in race 5. So the pick 5 ending in race 5. If you have a ticket in that pick 5, you want to hold on to your tickets, as there was a consolation payoff that was not posted at that time. We're still calculating that payoff. As soon as that information is available to us, it'll be posted. But again, that payoff is still being calculated, a consolation payoff involving the pick 5, which ended in race number 5. So hold on to your tickets for a little bit longer if you were involved in that pick 5.
Thank you, Kaiten. So late information developing about that, and then also you wonder if it ties into the return on the pick 5 itself. Okay, back to what's going on here. Let's look at the field for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. We talked about Princess Noor, her 3 for 3 record coming in, how dominant she's been in California. But Kaiten, early on in the wagering, she's not an odds-on favorite here. She's 2-1, and for those who watched her in California, maybe that's a bit of a surprise. Why do you think that Princess Noor is not taking more play in here?
Well, I'm just wondering, in part, the outside post position, combined with the fact of the size of the fields that she beat in California, substantially smaller than the fields that some of the other contenders in the field inside of her have faced in the past. I think it's also a testament to the quality of the field as a whole, because you can make a strong case for just about every other horse in this race. And when you have as many undefeated fillies as you do, like Princess Noor, you're going to have a little competition from the wagering public. I didn't expect her to be heavily favored, but I did expect her to be favored when all is said and done, off the prominence of that last victory in the Chandelier. It was an impressive win, to say the least. And she does have the right style for today's race.
Just to get to the Breeders' Cup is an accomplishment in and of itself, and it is our time for our Three Chimneys Cheers to the Breeder. Simply ravishing. Phenomenal story about Meg Levy, her own personal story, but then how she took a $500 mare, Four Wishes, that she had rescued, and now she has produced Simply Ravishing, one of our favorites here for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Sienna Farms with Day Out of the Office, and we're looking into the paddock now. Our Three Chimneys Cheers to the Breeder. Joining us from his home in Southern California as part of our player show here on the Breeders' Cup is Simon Bray. Simon, you were referencing earlier about the morning show that we've done, watching a lot of these horses work in the mornings. We've seen Princess Noor, we've seen Simply Ravishing, we've also seen Day Out of the Office up close. Who's impressed you the most in the mornings?
I think, look, if I was, forced and asked to pick one out of those three, I think as far from a physical standpoint and workouts, it would be Day Out of the Office. Her work over this racetrack at Keeneland was very, very impressive. But look, I'm not dismissing the quality and the credentials of the other two. I think Princess Noor has looked good. I think the issue with Princess Noor, just to circle back a little bit to the conversation you were having with Caton, I saw her being a favorite here at 9-5. I didn't see her being odds on in this situation with the presence of Simply Ravishing and Day Out of the Office. But, what do you do with Princess Noor, Todd? Do you take the filly that's been visually very impressive, or do you go with those Sheets players and say that she's not fast enough, she hasn't been battle-tested, if she gets headed, that might be an issue for her? I tend to lean the other way. I think she's got a world of talent, and I think there's still more there.
There's a good look at Princess Noor, right now our 9-5 favorite for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Let's get more insight now with Acacia Courtney.
Pleased to be joined by Marty McGee, DRF correspondent. Marty, we have some great two-year-old races on tap today. What's the best bet this afternoon?
Well, I really like Simply Ravishing in this race. I'd like to see Kenny McPeak get off the Breeders' Cup duck. He's over 31, had some tough luck before, but I really think she will trip out real nicely behind Day Out of the Office. The favorite, Princess Noor, probably will get a good trip too. There is a short field here, so. But I do think that the way Simply Ravishing won here at Keeneland really gives her the advantage.
What are some of the tactics you use in handicapping these two-year-old races, as these fillies are not that exposed?
Well, there is a lot of guesswork involved in betting on two-year-olds. You try to have to be a little more imaginative and extrapolate how they've done before. So I think with these unbeaten fillies, you just got to go with the horses who have been a distance to the ground, and that does qualify Simply Ravishing.
You follow the racing here in Kentucky on a regular basis. What are some of the tips you can give us about betting here at Keeneland?
Well, mostly get lucky. I mean, the track here has been favoring speed, it seems like, in the early races, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the next race, so to speak.
Well, Marty, best of luck with Simply Ravishing and all of your picks today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Simon Bray, do you have the liquor cabinet locked up, or is it open right now?
Well, it's locked up right now. I've got kids in the house.
Okay, well, tell the kids to go to the babysitter, because I want you to open up that liquor cabinet. We're going to give you a couple drinks you can make here on Breeders' Cup Day. Let's start with the Tory Cup. How about this? 1.5 parts Maker's Mark. You had me right there. But then you're going to add 3/4 parts sweet vermouth, 1.5 parts orange juice, 2 parts lemonade, Simply or Tropicana. That is the Tory Cup. The preparation, combine all the ingredients in a mixing tin. Add ice, shake vigorously, and strain over fresh ice in a fancy wine glass. And then there is the garland. I know this is the one that you want, Simon Bray. 1 part Tito's handmade vodka, 1 part triple sec. Oh, my friend Eric Barland at Tito's, I know he's listening to this. I'm going to have him make me a garland next time I see him. 1 part honey green tea. I know you like tea, Simon. Honest or pure leaf. And then 1/2 part fresh lemon juice. Combine all ingredients in a mixing tin. Add ice, shake vigorously, and strain over fresh ice in a highball glass. Garnish with edible purple flowers. So Simon Bray going out to his organic garden, grabbing the purple flowers, and grabbing him some Tito's. 2 great drinks to enjoy during the Breeders' Cup. Caton, looking into the paddock here, Simply Ravishing is a phenomenal story, as we talked about with breeder Meg Levy. But what about this horse on the racetrack? We've talked so much about the undefeated records of Day Out of the Office and Princess Noor. Simply Ravishing has been just as dominant in three career starts.
She does, and three very different situations. In her debut, it was on the turf. She did it from a little bit off the pace, did it professionally and easily at 14-1. She came back in the P.G. Johnson, which was stakes race originally scheduled for the grass, but moved to the main track sprinting and ran away from the field. And then equally impressive in the Grade 1 Alcibiades here at Keeneland, going 1 1/16, where she established position right off the bat and just went on with it, getting stronger as she hit the finish line. So it's no telling where the bottom is for Simply Ravishing. The question is where she stands against some of the others in this field who are coming from different places. The horse that is most intriguing to me is the 5 Girl Daddy. She's not the biggest filly in the world, but she has a long stride. I thought her workout, which I saw in the grandstand at Churchill, was visually impressive. Just a very ease of going, and Dale Roman seems to be very high on her as well.
It's two of the best betting days of the year, the Breeders' Cup on this Future Stars Friday and tomorrow on Saturday. And how about this opportunity? A chance at $1 million. FanDuel is very proud to sponsor the Breeders' Cup Mile on the turf this year in conjunction with the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund. And to celebrate, we're giving you a free chance at $1 million. Pick the exact order of finish in the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile presented by PDJF, and you'll share in $1 million with those who pull off the same feat. Get all the details at breederscup.com/FanDuel. Again, completely free. A free shot at $1 million. That's 9 Breeders' Cup Championship races tomorrow, but we're in the midst of a fantastic Future Stars Friday here, and the stars are bright in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies. Something's got to give. You have 3 of these main contenders coming in combined 9 for 9. They have yet to lose, and now they're going to get their greatest test of all against each other. Let's meet the field, Caden, starting with the 1, Simply Ravishing.
Simply Ravishing is undefeated in 3 starts. The most recent of these, the most impressive, Grade 1 company in the Alcibiades, and she made it look easy. Harold Lerner and Magdalena Racing, co-owners Kenny McPeak, one of 2 runners in this field for Kenny. She's the daughter of Lauban, and she does have speed on the inside. Bequist is next for Gary Barber, Wachtel Stables and Company. Butch Reed has this filly Razor Sharp. She is really training exceptionally well, and I thought she won the pick of the paddock as far as appearances were concerned. There's Day at the Office, undefeated in 3 starts, stalking style, and another who's been training very, very well. And she's trained well at Keeneland in the mud, as well as fast tracks where she's galloped to victory in all 3 of her starts, including the Grade 1 Frisette. Thoughtfully finished behind Simply Ravishing and Crazy Beautiful in her most recent start, but I have a hunch that Steve Asmussen has this filly regrouping and poised for a big effort. She could show a little bit of early speed too, more than she did in the Alcibiades last time. I think she had a bit of an off day. And there's Girl Daddy, who I mentioned. Just have loved the way she traveled over at Churchill Downs. We'll see how that translates here. Undefeated in 2 starts. She showed some determination to overcome an outside post position in the Grade 3 Pocahontas. Crazy Beautiful going by, and there is Princess Noor, who has beaten all she's tackled and really hasn't had a test of late, but from the outside post position, I think she may get her test today. The average field size that she's tackled, 6 horses, but that is true for a number of her rivals to the inside, although there are a few who have really met some big fields and are a bit more battle tested, I think, so far as style is concerned, but she has to be respected for sure.
That is the field for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. As they go out to warm up, we go out to Acacia Courtney.
Todd, Breeders' Cup juvenile hero Uncle Mo's progeny. They scored about 20% in dirt route races. That compares favorably to his 17% overall record, which is just sensational for a stallion. Perhaps that's a good sign of things to come for Girl Daddy, named in honor of the late Kobe Bryant. She's a daughter of Uncle Mo, stretching out around 2 turns for the first time for trainer Dale Romans here in the Juvenile Fillies. The most powerful past performances in horse racing are always available on DRF.com, as that was our DRF formulator stat here for the Juvenile Fillies.
Thank you, Acacia. Now 6 minutes until the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, one of the most anticipated showdowns on this Future Stars Friday card with the undefeated Princess Noor, Simply Ravishing, and Day Out of the Office. Gabby Gaudet.
Here with trainer Kenny McPeak with 2 in here. We'll start with Simply Ravishing. She really looked like she was feeling herself today. Is she always that tough to saddle?
No, she's never done anything like that before. You know, Chico, one of my top guys, handles her. He also has Swiss Skydiver. He did a good job. She wanted to get a little frisky on us, and we ended up saddling her on the walk, which put the trainer out of breath, but she's fine.
What is the strategy from the reel today, given her speed?
I think we're going to let her run to the first turn and see how it unfolds. I think she's a rateable filly. I don't think by any means does she need the lead, and we'll leave that up to Louis. But and my other filly could surprise. She's going to come from back. We're going to cut the corners with her, but you know, both of them with a chance.
And it seems like they complement each other. Good luck with both.
Thank you.
Ken McPeak in line for a big weekend here at the Breeders' Cup. All right, Simon, ultimately something's got to give. When you look at the past performances of most of these horses, it looks like they're on or near their lead. They're going to be on the engine in here. But who ultimately established the early position in here? What type of pace are we looking at?
I think we're looking at an honest pace, especially the way we've seen the track been playing earlier, where it's been favoring horses on or close to the front end. We just heard from Kenny McPeak, Simply Ravishing is going to go. I think Day Out of the Office might find herself just naturally, you know, putting pressure on her just by virtue of the fact she's shown speed out of those one-turn races. I think Princess Noor, though, Todd, is the key because, yes, she's got speed, but she has the advantage in this situation of an outside post, and she can rate. Bob Baffert, I think, systematically has taught her how to rate in the last 2 starts. You see that a lot with his young horses. Gate to Wire win in the debut, and then Victor Espinosa made a conscious effort in the last 2 starts, even though she wanted to run and was anxious in the early stages, to sit her off horses. And I think that set her up well for an off-the-pace trip here this afternoon.
Joaquin Jaime, taking a look at the 5 Girl Daddy, she's kind of hanging around there on the tote board. She's 5-1. She has not drifted upwards from her 6-1 morning line. She, too, coming in with an impressive win most recently. It was the 1-turn mile, the Grade 3 Pocahontas. Do you see her as a viable upset possibility?
Yeah, I believe so, just because she hasn't done anything wrong in her career. She's one of 4 undefeated horses in here. A perfect 2 for 2, as you mentioned, coming off that win in the Grade 3 Pocahontas. I caught up with Dale Romans down in the paddock a second ago. You see the comments in her first 2 starts saying a slow start and a step slow. I said, how bad were they in your opinion? He thought it was significant in the debut, but he didn't feel it was significant at all in her second career start and believes she will break better today. I asked, what have you seen from this filly in her training over at Churchill Downs? He said she's always trained very well and is just a very, very classy filly. And here's a filly, Todd, that has a lot of Breeders' Cup names on the top and bottom side of her pedigree, being by Uncle Mo, who was a Breeders' Cup juvenile winner, out of the Broodmare sire, Unbridled Song, who was also a Breeders' Cup juvenile winner.
Yeah, Unbridled Song, one of the fastest horses that we have seen in Future Stars Friday history. And taking a look at other horses in this field. Day Out of the Office, Simon, you mentioned her first as being the horse that impressed you the most in the morning. How does she look on the track?
I think she looks great. I mean, she was very sharp in her work. She's got a very efficient, athletic way of moving. She's very efficient with her stride. She picks her feet up and she puts them back down on the track in a very quick manner. Not a lot of wasted action there. And she is built for the dirt, and she's responded in kind with her past performances. I mean, the big question mark is how will she handle the 2 turns? I think watching her train, watching her run, looking at her pedigree, I don't think it's going to be an issue. So after that, it's just, is she good enough? And she's got all the credentials, all the class to definitely win this race.
Caden, 3 horses in this field of 7 come out of the Grade 1 Darley Alcibiades. Simply Ravishing dominated them that day, but Thoughtfully was supposed to run a much better race, at least according to the betting public, and she did not. Any chance for a rebound now today? She's 38-1.
I'm going to draw a line through her last race. Now, that's not to say that she will win this race, but I think she's going to run a much better race, truer and more similar to what she ran in the Adirondack. She's by Tappet out of a Seeking the Gold mare. The pedigree is there to handle the distance, but the Tappet offspring can have minds of their own, and when they're good, they are very, very good. But when they have off days, they throw in clunkers every once in a while. So I am willing to think that Thoughtfully could run a much improved effort here.
Simon, it's amazing how one kind of subpar race can change the betting public's view. It was Crazy Beautiful, who was the favorite in the Grade 1 Darley Alcibiades last time out. She finished second to Simply Ravishing, beaten 6 1/4. Now today, you could get her at 15-1.
Yeah, look, she's been favoured in both the last 2 starts, and she's been beaten by both her stablemates. I think the price is right, even though she was favoured last time out. But, I mean, strictly on form line, she's got to turn around 6 lengths on Simply Ravishing and maybe a couple of lengths on Girl Daddy. So I think she's right where she should be from a price standpoint. So of the 3 Kenny McPeek horses, I think she's by far and away the longest chance of winning here.
And there is the $1.3 million daughter of Not This Time, Princess Noor. High expectations since she was sold, and she is approaching the starting gate to show that it was all worth it. She is already a Grade 1 winner, having taken the Grade 1 Del Mar debutante, but this is the test. Against the best 2-year-old fillies in the country, it is time for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. The field is close to the starting gate. Kaiten, who wins?
I'm going to stick with Girl Daddy at 5-1. I think the 2 turns will only help her.
Simon, Kaiten going with an upset with that horse right there, the 5 Girl Daddy. Are we going to see something out of the top 3 choices here?
Well, I'm going with Princess Noor. I know she's unchallenged, and I know the speed figures and Sheets players think she's got to really improve here, but we don't know what she has left in the tank there. She's done everything so easy. She's got the physique to improve as she goes along in her racing career, and I think there's a world of talent there. Hopefully she gets a nice trip from that outside draw, sits off the pace.
Trainer Bob Baffert has talked about just how great Princess Noor is, but he also pointed out you've got to test yourself against the best out there, and that is about to happen in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. An Eclipse Award on the line. The winner of this race is going to be named the best 2-year-old filly in the country. It is post time for the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Princess Noor moves into line at 9-5. Second choice is the 1 Simply Ravishing at 5-2, and that horse right there, the 3 Day Out of the Office, is our third choice at 7-2. What a showdown. It's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Let's go up to track announcer Kurt Becker.
Switch sides with him, Sean.
Last one moves into line, first wire at the post. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Vequist and Day out of the office. These 2 come to the front in the opening strides. Princess Noor is there up toward the outside. Then Simply Ravishing is next, followed by Thoughtfully Between Horses, Girl Daddy on the outside, and Crazy Beautiful at the back as the field moves into the first turn. Day out of the office, the leader. Day out of the office, clear with the lead, gets over toward the inside, leads at a length. Princess Noor second ahead, just to the outside of Vequist, who's third by a length. Girl Daddy fourth and neck to the outside of Simply Ravishing, who's fifth in Between Horses. Crazy Beautiful is in sixth, and Thoughtfully is shuffled out to last. 23.3 seconds, the time for that opening quarter. Day out of the office, the leader up the backstretch at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. On top by a length, Princess Noor, second on the outside by a half length. Vequist is third, 3/4 of a length. Girl Daddy fourth up on the outside. Simply Ravishing, fifth in Between Horses, just over 3 lengths from the front. Crazy Beautiful, Thoughtfully at the back. 47.12 seconds, the time for the opening quarter. Day out of the office, the leader by a length onto the far turn. Princess Noor is second, and then Girl Daddy, who moves into contention, a closer third now up on the outside, third by a half length. Vequist in fourth, they're at the quarter pole. Simply Ravishing is fifth, and she is still running some 6 lengths from the front to the top of the short stretch. Day out of the office, opening up on a 3-length lead as they turn for home. Vequist up the inside. Princess Noor is still there on the outside. Girl Daddy still far back with Simply Ravishing. Vequist is coming up the rail. Here's Vequist up the inside. Now to challenge Day out of the office, and Vequist just keeps on running. Vequist, Joel Rosario to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
rolling the dice along the pine to Joel Rosario, and Vequist upset the field in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies. Turning for home, Simon, it looked like Day Out of the Office was absolutely on cruise control. Princess Noor came to her. She turned her way, but could not respond to Vequist.
Yeah, no excuses for the two major players in here. Day Out of the Office had everything her own way. Princess Noor loomed a threat turning for home. Day Out of the Office disposed of her, and in deep stretch, we are looking for a horse from off the pace. Here comes Vequist, perfectly timed right by Joel Rosario, up the rail here, and wins going away for Gary Barber and Robert Reed. Butch Reed, this is a big win for him. Joel Rosario, daughter of Nyquist, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile back in 2050 here, now sires the winner of the 2020 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies.
Butch Reed applies his trade in Pennsylvania, longtime horseman, quality horseman, and now on the biggest stage, he delivers with Vequist here, the beaten favorite last time out in the Frizette to Day Out of the Office. That race proved to be a key race here today, as those two horses absolutely out of the Frizette dominated the action here in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies. And then there are the Silks of owner Gary Barber. He is in line for a huge weekend here at the Breeders' Cup with horses in just about every division, and this is going to be a satisfying win for him and his partners. Vequist taking the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies, and look at the final time, 1 1/16, Caton, and 1:42.1.
And Vequist really showing something there with her ability to maintain that position on the inside and then get faster at each stage of the game. It's not easy to come from off the pace when the pace is soft in the early stages, but Joel Rosario was riding with great confidence to establish that position, to save all the ground, and to allow Vequist to be able to have that run at the end. It was just a very impressive performance. The 3 Day Out of the Office holding on just barely over Girl Daddy, who ran in spots and came from off the pace at the middle part of the racetrack. You wonder if there is anything to the ground loss there, or if it's simply a matter of Vequist just being the best on the day.
If this is any indication, don't take anything for granted. Coming up later in the TVG Breeders' Cup Juvenile, presented by the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund. And you take a look at this field with Vequist upsetting at 6-1 with so many great resumes in here. And now you start to think about the big races for 3-year-olds last year, or looking ahead to next year, rather. And Simon, one thing with Gary Barber, that's what his stable is in it for. So she's going to be on the path to the big races for 3-year-old fillies next year.
Yeah, she certainly is, and she's obviously relished the 2 turns here for the first time. We've talked about her pedigree. Look at it. By Nyquist, Kentucky Derby winner, out of a mare by Mineshaft, who was a very good older horse, won the Jockey Club Gold Cup, of course. So lots of distance there, and a horse who really moved forward with the 2 turns and the new dynamic here in the extra real estate, where some of the other fillies in here might have regressed and stepped back a little bit. She thrived on the added distance.
Posted on the board, 2-3-5-1-7. Vequist over Day Out of the Office, over Girl Daddy, over Simply Ravishing, over Princess Noor. Waiting for these prices to come in, and waiting with a Longines official timepiece, who is the official partner here of the Breeders' Cup. And everywhere you look, Longines reminding you of the time of day. It's a perfect time of day, anytime, with a Longines timepiece. We'll be back with more of the Breeders' Cup Players Show. When we return, it'll be the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies on the turf.
In the winner's circle for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies, number 2, V-Quist. Owned by Gary Barber, Watchtail Stable of Adam Watchtail, and Swillcan Stable, LLC of Thomas McGrath. Trained by Butch Reed, the jockey is Joel Rosario. V-Quist, a 2-year-old filly by Nyquist out of Vero Amore by Mineshaft. Bred in Kentucky by Swillcan Stables. Mile at a 16th over the fast main track, 1 minute 42.3 seconds.
Just really soaking it in for the connections here of V-Quist. A big congratulations as she comes up the rail and takes the Juvenile Phillies for the trophy presentation. The president and CEO of Keeneland, Bill Thomason.
On behalf of Keeneland and the Breeders' Cup, I'm glad we had a second to catch our breath because our hearts are still racing. There's no racing group more deserving than the winners. Congratulations to all of y'all and to a filly that's well deserving to have had that purple champion blanket put on. Congratulations.
A big congratulations by all means. Grab that trophy. Tom McGrath, owner and breeder. I'm going to have you come up to this mic if you can with Gary Barber.
And Tom McGrath.
Tom McGrath, I think that this has got to be a very special moment for you. You bred the horse and chose to stay in for 25%. Just talk me through what a moment this is for you, having watched her grow up from day one.
It's an unbelievable moment. We're so in love with this filly. She's got tenacity that Vero had, and she's got the athleticism of Nyquist, and we just love her. And you know, as far as Gary, you know, they saw the numbers on the horse when she ran that maiden and didn't win, and they were in love with her too, and they made it easy for me to say yes.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, well, firstly, I want to thank Butch, who did an unbelievable job, and his whole family. And Joelle, what a ride. Just love it. And to my partner, Adam Wachtel, and to Tom McGrath, this has been a great ride, and hopefully we got a champion filly this year. But unbelievable. Love Keeneland, love the sport, and many more to come. Thank you.
Couldn't have said it better. Congratulations to all the connections of Vequist, Butch Reed, and Joelle Rosario. Lafitte?
They're off in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Vequist and Day out of the office. These two come to the front in the opening strides. Princess Noor is there up toward the outside. Then Simply Ravishing is next, followed by Thoughtfully Between Horses, Girl Daddy on the outside, and Crazy Beautiful at the back as the field moves into the first turn. Day out of the office, the leader. Day out of the office, clear with the lead, gets over toward the inside, leads at a length. Princess Noor second ahead, just to the outside of Vequist, who's third by a length. Girl Daddy fourth and neck to the outside of Simply Ravishing, who's fifth in Between Horses. Crazy Beautiful is in sixth, and Thoughtfully is shuffled out to last. 23.3 seconds, the time for that opening quarter. Day out of the office, the leader up the backstretch at Keeneland in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. On top by a length, Princess Noor, second on the outside by a half length. Vequist is third, 3/4 of a length. Girl Daddy fourth up on the outside. Simply Ravishing, fifth in Between Horses, just over 3 lengths from the front. Crazy Beautiful, Thoughtfully at the back. 47.12 seconds, the time for the opening quarter. Day out of the office, the leader by a length onto the far turn. Princess Noor is second, and then Girl Daddy, who moves into contention, a closer third now up on the outside, third by a half length. Vequist in fourth, they're at the quarter pole. Simply Ravishing is fifth, and she is still running some 6 lengths from the front to the top of the short stretch. Day out of the office, opening up on a 3-length lead as they turn for home. Vequist up the inside. Princess Noor is still there on the outside. Girl Daddy still far back with Simply Ravishing. Vequist is coming up the rail. Here's Vequist up the inside. Now to challenge Day out of the office, and Vequist just keeps on running. Vequist, Joelle Rosario to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies.
One moment, you're up in the sky. And the next, you're in a free fall, 10,000 feet above the ocean. You have 30 seconds between you and the water surface. And it's these 30 seconds that define who you are. Because how we face the fall is what separates the pioneer spirit from the rest. This is your legacy.
Breeders know that English Channel offers unparalleled value in its class.
With 9 crops of racing age, English Channel has sired 6 champions, 5 millionaires, and 23 graded stakes winners. A perennial leader among turf stallions, English Channel has also sired 9 individual Grade 1 winners on both the turf and dirt. English Channel, the best value at stud.
Hey, neighbor, we gotta talk.
Well, Jay? No, he only comes to Bugle on race days.
Race days?
With the TVG app, every day is race day. You can place bets right in your phone, even stream live races.
Upcoming race at the Breeders' Cup.
I can have a day at the track whenever I want, right at home.
Coming through, guys.
Go get him, Mike.
Mike Smith?
Yeah, Mike Smith.
There's a new home of horse racing. Yours. Get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to $250.
Catalina Cruiser. He won 7 of 9 starts coast to coast with 6 triple-digit buyers and 5 dominating graded stakes wins, including a record in the Grade 2 True North Stakes. A son of leading 5th crop sire, Union Rags. A $370,000 yearling with an imposing physical and one of the best of his generation. There's only one Catalina Cruiser, now standing at Lane's End.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf is a race that has not produced many surprises lately. Sharing was not favored last year, but was well regarded, and she ended trainer Chad Brown's 3-year run of saddling the winner.
Sharing and Manny Franco have won.
The previous year, Newspaper of Record's dominating win gave Brown the hat trick in this race. Back in 2015 at Keeneland, Catch a Glimpse held off the late charge of 2 European challengers. This is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf.
The Players Show continues. Coming up next is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf, a mile on the turf, the $1 million race for the 2-year-old fillies. Acacia Courtney and Matt Carruthers on set with you as we continue on. Matt, we've had some spectacular performances so far today, and it looks like the good racing continues as a strong American and European contingent here in the Juvenile Phillies Turf coming up.
Yeah, I mean, you're right to my right. I want to do this badly, but I'm going to look directly in the camera. That's what I'm supposed to do. This is television. We finally get kind of a middle-of-the-road price, right? With Vetquist getting through on the inside, with Joel Rosario, who's aboard another horse about that price, a little bit lower here, and Plum Ali, who's at 4-1. I'm a little surprised in the odds right now. Nothing against Aunt Pearl. She was sensational here at Keeneland. I guess that's the reason why she's your favorite right now at 8-5, because that big performance in the Jessamine was here at Keeneland. So a home turf advantage, so to speak, for Aunt Pearl. She's really quick. That was a freakishly good performance, 40-4 of a turf course that was playing very quickly. But to do that in just the second start of her career, I'm just not convinced that she's quicker than Campanelli, because Campanelli is lightning quick for Wesley Ward, the 10.
That should make things pretty interesting as far as the pace is concerned. 8-5 right now on Aunt Pearl. As here's our look at the Three Chimneys. Cheers to the breeder, as obviously all of these individuals and groups associated with getting a filly to the Breeders' Cup. A tremendous hats off to all of you that start things off at the beginning of their career. As we head now to Scott Hazelton, standing by with Wesley Ward.
Wesley Ward looking for his second win here on Breeders' Cup Friday, and Wesley, you got 2 in here, Campanelli and Royal Approval. How do you think Campanelli will handle this turf course here today?
Well, she's going to love it. She likes a little give in the ground. So even though we've had some hot sun, still, you know, and talking to my riders afterwards, there's some give there. So I think she's really going to like it.
What are the expectations from her early on in this race?
I talked to Frankie a little bit. He'd like to kind of get her to settle and ease back a little bit off the speed. He has a little concern about her distance-wise, so that's why he's going to maybe take her back and get around the first bend and hopefully get a good position. I don't. I think she's going to have the mile's not going to be an issue for her as long as her stride is. So we're hoping for the best here.
What about Royal Approval? How will she handle this ground?
ground's always been tough for her. You know, we were praying for sunshine all week, and we got it. I just don't know if it dried up enough for her. So we'll see when we get out there.
Good luck, Wes.
Thank you.
Scott, thank you. Some good insight from Wesley Ward as to how his Phillies will handle the turf course, as we did have that rain. It has been bright and sunny and a beautiful day, but definitely still some cut in it, as we're pleased to welcome in once again Simon Bray from his home in California. Simon, been taking a look at the few turf races that we have here at Keeneland today. What have you been noticing as far as how it looks like the turf course might be playing, or just some insight in it on how horses seem to be handling it?
Well, I definitely think there's some cut in the ground still, Acacia. I definitely think that, you know, although we've had some, you know, some sunshine the last several days, don't forget we turned the clocks back last week, so the number of hours of daylight have diminished somewhat, and in turn, I don't think the turf course has dried out as quick as some would have hoped. It's good safe racing ground, but definitely got a little cut in it, and I think that'll be an advantage to maybe some of the Europeans in here. I like one European horse. I'll get to that in just a second, but right now we're going to hand it back down to Naomi.
I am joined here by Graham Motion, who of course won this race last year with Sharing, has 2 in this race. Graham, let's start with Alda. I've seen her on track. She's a phenomenal looking filly. She's very big. What has she showed you back at Fair Hill?
Yeah, I mean, she's never done much wrong, to be honest. She was always one of our most promising 2-year-olds, so it's not really a surprise that she's here today. And, you know, things went smoothly. It would have been nice to have won the Natama, but I thought she ran really well that day. It's good to be here.
Do you feel like the time frame is better setting her up for this?
Definitely. Yeah, I felt the Natama maybe came back a little quick off a pretty big effort in the prep race, to be honest.
You have Invincible Gal drawing in as well. Beautiful turf pedigree underneath her. What kind of hopes do you have for her today?
So, you know, she had to overcome an extremely soft grass course last time. I mean, it was as soft as we ever run on in the States. So, and she kind of took the worst of it. She was on and off the lead. There was no pace that day. I thought she was very game to hang on for second.
Oh, we wish you the best of luck with your 2 runners here, Graham.
Thank you.
Naomi, thank you. Graham Motion with 2, and do note, as he mentioned, Invincible Gal drawing in off the also eligible list with the scratch of the 7 tetragonal in here, so don't miss out on that, as we saw a horse earlier on today win coming in off of that also eligible list. But don't miss out on the gear either. Gear up for Breeders' Cup 2020. Shop the official Breeders' Cup 2020 merchandise at breederscup.shop.com. Excuse me. There's some great stuff out there, and it is 2020. So there's plenty of masks, cool masks, prints, hoodies, sweatshirts, everything you can possibly imagine. You don't want to miss out on all of that stuff. Check out breederscupshop.com as we talk about our stats race lens angle horse today. It is the number 14 editor at large. Of course, this is on behalf of our friend Christina Blacker, and thanks to our friends from Equibase for this stat. Javier Castellano, riding in a turf route race at Keeneland over the past 5 years, has had 115 starters, 31 wins, 27% in the win, 54% in the money, and that's a 19% ROI, return on investment. Javier Castellano also with a couple of wins on the card already. Editor at large for trainer Chad Brown. Trying to get another win for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf is Matt. He won this race with newspaper of record, a very talented filly by Lope de Vega. Editor at large, another one by the same stallion, trying to get back to the winner's circle today.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Javier is 27% in that category. He's just a smart rider, and I think these distance races on grass, obviously you have to have the physical skills, but the brain comes into play, I think, a lot more. And Javier, obviously, very smart to go with the talents. You know, the Miss Grillo, that editor at large is coming out of from the 4th of October, the pace was pretty slow in that race. I mean, Caldi was your pace setter. She ended up finishing second. Plum Ali, sat second. She ended up winning that race. It was only a 5-horse field, too, which is something we're not really accustomed to seeing too often in graded stakes races. You're used to seeing fields more like this with a big field. So it was a compact field. They're all kind of bunched together. And editor at large was kind of last, but only 4 lengths off of the leader. So was never really even to show that kick that she kind of put on display in that debut. Is she good enough? to step up off of a third-place effort in a 5-horse field in the Grade 2. I definitely have my doubts, but she's definitely going to have more pace to run at because the horse is going to be 1, 2, and the betting choices are both lightning quick.
We know they're going to be fast out of the gate as Chad Brown, Peter Brandt. Of course, they have big chances coming up with Sister Charlie and my sister Nat in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf tomorrow, too. Talking about that pace, though, we alluded already a little bit to Aunt Pearl. 2 for 2, winning the Jessamine. Plum Ali right next to her, undefeated, 3 for 3. Just as we were talking about in the dirt version of this race, you've got some undefeated horses trying to keep that momentum going into the big field today.
Yeah, and Aunt Pearl, I mean, Spanish Love Affair, who's in this race, she sat third in that race, ended up finishing second. Your third-place finisher, Ingracia, came back to win the Chelsea Flower over a soft turf course, I think just this past Sunday, closing day at Belmont Park. So that was a nice win. It kind of flattered Aunt Pearl a little bit. Apparently, she's looked great in the morning. She's trained Fordley out of that race, so it could be obviously tomorrow in particular a huge day for one Brad Cox. It'll be nice to win this big Grade 1 with Aunt Pearl, who set a stakes record and going 40-4 here on the 7th of October.
We heard trainer Wesley Ward talking about the 10 Campanelli for trainer Wesley Ward, as that one could be a big part of the pace as well. Simon, how did you see this race playing out?
Yeah, I thought Campanelli, I agree with Matt. I think Campanelli's just too quick naturally. I know they're going to try and rate her off the pace here, but, I think she's a very quick filly, and I think she assumes the lead in here, which, might not be a bad thing. As far as other horses that probably go to the lead in here, Union Gables could be a little bit interesting. I think as far as a horse that could have an impact, picks up Manny Franco, aggressive rider, showed speed last time out up in the Matron. So, while the pace could be honest in here, I think, the potential for a horse to come from off of it and get the perfect setup is there. And in that case, I like her. I'm going off way outside the box here, Matt, with a big price in here as we're about to start the post break. The 6, Nizuna for Roger Varian. Lightly raced. Filly who's not getting much respect. Varian brought a filly called Daya here last year, was second behind Sharing. Used the same prep race, the Rockfell Stakes, to come here. She looked good earlier this week. Nizuna going to be my pick of 48-1, Acacia.
I like it, Simon. We saw a 30-1 upset later. Best of luck with your long shot pick. As Matt, we start off the post break with Udna Data. Here's the 2, Miss Amulet next.
First, the no daylight savings time angle from Simon, then a 48-1 shot. What will be next? I think Miss Amulet's going to show some speed. She shot out of the gate at 6 furlongs at Newmarket in her last start, so expect her to be forwardly placed.
The 3, Alda for Grand Motion, just missed in the Natalma. Didn't really look too much like she got out, more that she was kind of bumped by another foe in the stretch.
Okay, you don't know me that well, but I'm a big fan of cliches. Plum Ollie has done nothing wrong thus far in 3 starts. I mean, she has that nice kind of tactical style, and she's getting better.
Here's the 5, Aunt Pearl, also undefeated. Currently your favorite at 9-5. Should be a big part of that early pace.
I question the distance a little bit with Nizuna. By Kodiak, I know Campanelli's by Kodiak. Kodiak, an elite sprinter, 3/4 to Group 1 winner, Invincible Spirit. I think this might be a little bit too far for Nizuna. The 7 is out.
Scratch the 7, Tetragonal, as we look at the 8, Mother Earth. 4, trainer Aidan O'Brien comes out of what seems to be a live Group 1 race last time out, finishing 3rd. She does have the ability to be up close and doesn't need to be too far off of it either.
I know Simon Callahan's a big fan of Madoni. 3 for 3, undefeated, another horse going the right direction. She's a gutty racehorse, too. I thought it was a real gutty win to win the Surfer Girl by a neck as the even money favorite last month.
5-1 on Campanelli, undefeated as well in her 3 starts as she's stretching out in distance. Thought it was interesting that Wesley Ward says Frankie Dettori questions the trip for her today.
Yeah, but Wesley doesn't, emphatically. He doesn't think it'll be an issue at all for her. Royal Approval, also trained by Wesley Ward, has been beaten up by Campanelli on a couple of occasions.
Spanish Love Affair for Mark Casse and Tyler Gaffleon finished 2nd behind Aunt Pearl last time out in the Jessamine. Was up close, just couldn't make a dent in that pace setter.
You have a rider change here. Manny Franco to ride Union Gables as the 15 gets in this race. That's where Jose Ortiz lands. Union Gables, she has some quickness, but not as fast as some of your shorter price horses here.
Here's Editor at Large for Chad Brown. Won this race with Newspaper of Record 2 years ago. We saw that stat on Javier Castellano. We'll see if they can team up for a win here with Editor at Large off the 3rd.
And the 15 gets in, Invincible Gal, Jose Ortiz. The only win did occur over a turf course listed as good. She's already been on a good turf course, a firm turf course, and a yielding turf course, and she's only raced 3 times.
That's the field. 14 runners in the Grade 1 $1 million Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf as we head down and check in with Gabby Gaudette.
Thank you, Acacia. It's now time for the DRF formulator stat for the Juvenile Phillies turf. Trainer Chad Brown is 4 for 12, 33%, and a positive ROI of $3.23 over the past 4 years, with 2-year-old turf ratters making their third lifetime start in graded stakes races. All 4 of those horses won Breeders' Cup events: New Money Honey, Rushing Fall, Newspaper of Record, and even Structer last year. Editor-at-large number 14 coming up will hope to follow in their footsteps in the juvenile turf. Of course, the most powerful past performances are always available on DRF.com. Daily Racing Form past performances are the exclusive home of Buyer Speed Figures, the gold standard for evaluating thoroughbred performance, now mobile optimized. Access now at DRF.com.
Gabby. Thank you, editor-at-large, currently 54-1. Good luck to the connections, as there are some strong European contenders in this race as well. Let's check in with Naomi.
Thank you, Acacia. Yeah, I absolutely love the number 2, Miss Amulet. I have seen her train around the training track all weekend. I must admit she is a little bit headstrong, but she has been cruising around that left-handed training track. And then when she got on the turf, she actually relaxed, relished the going, the beautiful, efficient action. She's well muscled. She's a smaller filly, and I think that suits it. I think she can find her way around the bends. And if you look at that last race of her, the Cheveley Park Stakes, she outbroke them, all of them, as Matt already mentioned. Great gate speed, and actually she kind of dropped back a little bit, but she rebroke, hit the line so strongly. That makes me think that she can stay the mile, because at Newmarket you actually go down into a dip and then you go further up, and it was on good ground, so she definitely did a lot there and was just so strong hanging into. The only drawback I have with her is that just in that race she hung a little bit towards the right, but what I've seen thus far here on track, I'm loving her, Acacia.
She's a nice price at 18-1. Naomi, thank you. Filly by Sir Prancelot, who's been full of herself in the mornings, too, even training in draw reins to keep her head bowed, to keep her a little bit more contained, as we check in again with Simon Bray. Thoughts here, Simon, on the Juvenile Phillies turf?
Yeah, I think Miss Amulet has a great chance. I agree with Naomi. I agree with everything she said. And, you know, Sir Prancelot has been an influential sire, European-based sire. The offspring have done well, particularly out west in California. So the pedigree there to make the transition to U.S. racing. Other couple of fillies we haven't talked about. The 3 Alder for Graham Motion, I think, gets a good trip. You heard in the interview from him. And then towards the outside, I want to just pick up where Matt left off with Madone with Simon Callahan. I think you're exactly right, Matt. If you get to see this filly up close, she's a beautiful, good-looking daughter of Vancouver. Big, long stride. She's going to come running late, and I think they've always had high hopes for her. We've seen her out close on the West Coast time, you know, in all 3 starts, and I think she's only going to get better as her career progresses. She's a filly that's got to grow and develop into a frame, and she's doing that exactly the right time. I think she's shown a lot of talent early. I think there's a ton more left there.
Undefeated as of now is Madone, as she's one that in the morning, she's not exactly a morning glory type of match. She's not one that really kind of flashes and shows off in her training leading up to it, but she certainly has an exciting closing kick.
Yeah, she does, and she's going the right direction. I think she has to improve probably, let's say, close to 10 points to win this race. She could very easily, right? She improved, just even look at the Buyer. She went from a 67 to an 80 in the Surfer Girl, and she could, if you're on a 90 here, there's a good chance you're probably going to win this race. So she definitely has a chance. Back to Alda quickly, the 3 for Motion. She's getting some play here. She's 8-1 right now. And, you know, she had a gutty win and a catch a glimpse at Woodbine going 6.5. I really liked her performance in the Natalma, and I'll tell you why. That's why I'm here. The pace was slow. They went 23-3, 47-4, and she was last early on in that race. They were kind of bunched up because they were going so slowly. To show some kick at the end of that race, despite those fractions being that slow, and the winner, Lady Spitespear, kind of took advantage of that. I think she sat second in that race. That was a really good performance closing into slow fractions, and we know that the fractions are going to be hot here. Is she good enough to win? I don't know, but she's going to get a much better trip today than she did, I think, in the Natalma September 20th.
2-1 right now on Aunt Pearl, holding fast as your favorite. Filly by Lope de Vega, a couple by that stallion here in this race. Michael Dubb and Madigat Stables, owners of both the 4 and 5 in here. As we talked about the pace and how that might set up with Aunt Pearl, Matt, I kind of thought that she almost looked not headstrong. You see a horse that a rider's having a tough time keeping balance, keeping moving straight. She seemed to be that to me in her last race. It looks like she's one that if she takes a step forward physically and mentally, as far as maturity, that would really benefit her in here.
I agree with that. I agree. And she has so much raw talent. I mean, to be able to go, I don't care how fast the turf course is playing, to be able to go 22-1, to clear a field in the grade 2 in the second start of her career, and then kick on the manner in which she did, impressive. So, yeah, I agree with you. She, I think mentally she has to take a step forward more than physically. I think physically she's already there. Will she take that step forward mentally? We'll find out here in a couple minutes.
The 10, Campanelli, 9-2 right now. Simon, what do you think about this one getting the distance?
Well, that's the thing. There's a big question mark with the distance. I think she can. I trust Wesley Ward's comments, what he said. He thinks she's got a long stride. She has the ability to get it. Frankie thinks otherwise, so he's going to adopt some off-the-pace tactics. Look, she's very, very talented. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, she won at Gulfstream Park, won the Queen Mary, and then she won the Prix at Deauville. So the big question mark is the distance. I'm of the belief that she probably can get it here at this flat mile trip. I think, the benefit of this race being at a mile rather than a mile and 16th, I think helps her greatly.
A well-traveled filly, Gulfstream, Ascot, and Deauville as Spanish Love Affair. We haven't talked much about her, Matt. She's the number 12 in here for Mark Casse. Won a stake in her second start for Mark down in Florida in the Sharp Susan, and then did finish second in the Jessamine behind your favorite last out.
Well, I mean, she chased Aunt Pearl, and if Aunt Pearl has company, if she's not by herself, it could be a different story for Spanish Love Affair. So she's one of many with a big shot in this race. I'm going to end up picking Campanelli. She looks great as she loads. I think 9-2 is a really good price in her. I mean, she crushed males in her last start in the Prix. I think she's the real deal. I think she wins.
Group 1 winner already, Campanelli. She's 9-2. Still holding fast is your favorite, Aunt Pearl. I'm going to take a shot with Plum Ali as they load in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf. We'll send it up to track announcer Kurt Becker, standing by with the call.
I got her.
Last one goes in, they're at the post. They're off in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf, and there goes Aunt Pearl. Aunt Pearl, wasting no time, goes right out for the early lead, but company in the form of Campanelli. Royal Approval comes away in third. Spanish Love Affair fourth up on the outside as they enter the first turn. Union Gables a wide fifth. And then Miss Amulet, who hugs the rail, saves ground in sixth, all to seventh. In between horses, Plum Ali is eighth. Editor at Large to her outside is in ninth. Nazuna is 10th. Madone 11th on her outside. Then a gap of 3 back to Mother Earth in 12th. Invincible Gal 13th. Udnadata is 14th and last. It was 22.55 seconds for the opening quarter. Aunt Pearl is the leader. Aunt Pearl has opened up by 3.5 lengths. Midpoint of the backstretch. Campanelli has backed away into second by a length and a half. And then Spanish Love Affair, who's third, 3/4 of a length. And then Royal Approval, fourth to the inside after an opening half mile in 47.3 seconds. They enter the far turn. Aunt Pearl, the leader, by 3 lengths. Campanelli, second a length. Spanish Love Affair, third. Royal Approval in fourth. Editor at Large swings wide around the turn in fifth, still 7 lengths off the lead. Union Gables, then Madone. Miss Amulet down toward the inside. Still has 9 lengths to make up, a 1/4 mile to go. And Aunt Pearl, the leader. Aunt Pearl with a 5-length advantage back to Campanelli. Spanish Love Affair is third on the outside. Editor at Large dives toward the rail in fourth. Aunt Pearl, final furlong, leads it by 5. Editor at Large up the inside second. Campanelli is in third. And then a late charge from Miss Amulet and Mother Pearl well behind Aunt Pearl, who wins it. Aunt Pearl by 5. Mother Earth rallied up for second around the outside of Miss Amulet in 1 minute 35.71 seconds.
Aunt Pearl, 2-year-old filly by Lope de Vega for trainer Brad Cox. Florent Giroux in the irons, takes them wire to wire, gets comfortable on the front end, Matt, and she never looks back.
Really smart front end ride from Florent Giroux. So you need the lead with Aunt Pearl. So I'm going to work a little bit to make sure I get the lead. And so you go 22-2 for the opening quarter, and you win the race the second quarter. If those fractions are legit, 25-1 second quarter, race over. Race over. Get the lead, gain control, slow things down, have plenty left late. Game plan to perfection for Aunt Pearl, Florent Giroux, Brad Cox.
Campanelli broke well, was up there with her in the early stages, but we heard the intent to rate her, take her off a little bit. She backed down, and that left Aunt Pearl just by herself.
Yeah, I think in hindsight, it's real easy for all of us, right? Maybe you go after Aunt Pearl. She had to work to get that easy lead, but then you don't let her just kind of relax in that second quarter. And once she was able to do that, a filly with these kind of gifts, and you mentioned she had to grow up mentally today. I think she showed that. The physical skills, now the mental skills on par with one another.
She absolutely did. So professional this afternoon as a couple of the Euros check in second and third. It was very close behind. It looks like the 8 Mother Earth got up over Miss Amulet, both of whom ran solid races in here.
Yeah, Mother Earth was flying at the end of the race, right? So Mother Earth, big performance, getting better. She ran a solid third at 18-1 at Newmarket last month. She gets away from Pretty Gorgeous, and she runs an Aunt Pearl, but she runs very well in defeat.
Another filly by Lope de Vega, of course, the sire of Newspaper of Record, who won this race a couple of years ago. Cheers to the breeders, Akiri Descharme and Bally Lynch Stud. Congratulations to you, of course, trainer Brad Cox, Mike Dub, Madaket Stables, and the Elkstone Group, and others. As this barn, Matt, we've become very accustomed to seeing Brad Cox in the winner's circle on Breeders' Cup weekend. Simon, thoughts on this performance here?
Yeah, I thought it was a very impressive performance. I agree with Matt's comments. I was looking at the screen and the fractions, and Florent Giroux did a masterful job. He was committed. He was pot committed at the start of this race to get the lead. And once you've made that decision, you're all in at that point. You just hope nobody chases you, and they didn't. And the ability to slow this horse down to 25 the second quarter was absolutely the key point in this race. That was the difference maker. I think if a couple of horses had challenged Pearl, it might have been a different story or a smaller winning margin. But that ability to just relax, take a second breath and regroup in the middle portion of the race gives these horses on the grass the ability to finish so strong. She kicked away from the rest of the field. Visually, very impressive performance. Great ride by Florent Giroux.
They've got a good one on their hands for sure, as we saw that mental maturity we were looking for. Here's a look at the order of finishes. Mother Earth did check in second. Miss Amulet Campanelli will have to settle for fourth. Plum Ali in fifth. As the Irish breds, Matt, 1, 2, 3, 4 in here.
Yeah, Naomi, liked Miss Amulet. That was a good call. She ran really well. She was coming on, too. Mother Earth kind of got her late to secure second. Miss Amulet, though, at a big prize, finishing third. I'm actually, Campanelli, I'm surprised she even held on for fourth in that race. It shows you her ability, too, to really never be comfortable, to be that far off the pace, and to still manage to finish fourth in this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf.
A big performance from your winner, Aunt Pearl, as we see the final odds there. She went off at 5-2. The money was right on this one. It's been a conversation today. Horses coming in on Future Stars Friday without a blemish on their record. It is rare, even with a lightly raced filly, to see at this stage of the game as they just keep that win streak extending, Matt.
She hasn't trailed yet at any point in a race, right? I mean, wire to wire at Churchill in a maiden by 5. Then the Jessamine here crushes by 2.5 lengths, wire to wire, in a fairly easy win here as well. So she's really never been challenged at any point in her career. And we'll see. It's going to happen at some point, but there's no reason to think that she won't be able to shake another horse off either. She's a very special filly, and congratulations, as you mentioned, to the connections.
We call it Future Stars Friday for a reason. There's a good one here. Aunt Pearl, the Irish bred filly by Lope de Vega, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies turf.
Entering the winner's circle for the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Phillies Turf, number 5, Aunt Pearl, owned by Michael Dubb, by Madaket Stables, LLC of Saul Kuman and Jason Monteleone. Owned also by Peter Deutsch, Michael Kisber, the Elkstone Group of Stuart Grant, and Bethlehem Stables, LLC of Michael Caruso. The trainer is Brad Cox. The jockey is Florent Giroux. Aunt Pearl, a 2-year-old filly by Lope de Vega, out of Matari Pearl by Hurricane Run. The winner bred in Ireland by Acure de Charme and Ballylynch Stud. 1 mile over the turf, listed good today in 1 minute 35.71 seconds.